SignPath Pharma, a round of applause. I know you guys are paying attention here.
It's actually SignPath Pharma, but that's all right.
I'm sorry about that.
It doesn't matter. I'm Kai Larson. I'm CEO of SignPath Pharma. And do we have? Yeah, there we go. We have slides up. SignPath is a company that has, and I say this in all modesty, we have solved the biggest safety problem in the pharmaceutical industry today, and that's cardiac safety as a side effect. We have a platform technology that addresses the primary cardiac toxicities that are associated with many drugs. That is cardiac arrhythmia and cardiomyopathy, which is damage to the heart muscle as a result of drugs. Let's see, we have a button here somewhere. All right. See if I get this right. There we go. Cardiac arrhythmia is the number one reason why drugs fail throughout the entire development pipeline, preclinically, clinically, and also it's the number one reason why drugs that are marketed are either withdrawn from the market or are reduced in terms of how you can use them. And our technology basically eliminates cardiac arrhythmia as a problem. We have so far tested it with 41 different drugs across all classes, chemotherapy agents, antiemetics, antipsychotics, antidepressants, antibiotics, and we have basically a 100% success rate in completely eliminating cardiac arrhythmia. We have phase 1 data in 70 human patients with our first generation product that was completely successful in eliminating cardiac arrhythmia and all cardiac toxicities actually. And we have a second gen product that is an orally available product that has likewise been tested, not in humans yet, but against many classes of drugs and has been 100% successful in eliminating cardiotox. Talk a little bit about cardiomyopathy. It's a huge problem in chemotherapy. Folks that get chemo often will beat cancer, but they end up with lifelong impairment to their heart. And in fact, for many cancers now, your chances of dying of heart failure are actually higher than your chances of dying of that particular cancer. And so we can fix that. We can basically make sure that people who get chemo, when they finish their chemo and they're a cancer survivor, they're able to walk up a flight of stairs and not pass out. And they will end up with completely healthy heart function. So this is our second generation product. This is the orally available one. We call it SPP4040. It's been tested in again over 40 drugs. It's administered orally. It has no toxicity even at high doses. We've dosed it chronically at 800 times the clinical dose and seen zero tox. It's effective within minutes, about 5 to 10 minutes. It provides protection, and it provides protection for about 5 to 6 hours. And it's extremely potent. Less than 100 milligrams would be enough to treat a very largest human patient you can imagine. Here's a slide. I didn't include much in terms of data, but this one you don't have to be a scientist to figure out the difference between those. This is SPP4040 and moxifloxacin. Moxifloxacin is an antibiotic. It's well known for causing QT prolongation. You can see moxi alone is that purple line. You get severe QT prolongation. As soon as you add our adjuvant in there, you get completely normal heart rhythm. And this is just kind of a taste. We've done this with 40, I think it's 42 different drugs now, and we have the same results with all of them. So we've basically solved the problem of QT prolongation as a drug side effect. Question that always comes up is, well, does it affect the target drug's efficacy? And the answer is no. The administration of our adjuvant doesn't change the PK, and it doesn't change the efficacy. We've done tests in, there's Moxi again, we've done it with terfenadine. That's Sutent, if you guys remember that. It was a antihistamine. It was very successful, then it got removed from the market because it was causing people to die. Their hearts would go into arrhythmia and they would die from a heart attack. Doesn't affect the efficacy. We've tested it with other things as well. Everything from antiemetics to anti-cancer drugs as well, and it doesn't change the efficacy at all or the PK. Again, this is a slide that talks about the cardiomyopathy. That's a big problem. We're going to run a study actually here at the U where we're going to treat cancer patients that are getting chemo with our SPP4040 adjuvant. And what that's going to show is that you can take a much longer run of chemotherapy without damaging your heart. And if the results in humans turn out to be the way that they have been in animals, it'll change the way that cancer safety is looked at. Because right now it's a trade-off. You say, well, this person's heart's going to be damaged, but they're not going to die of cancer. We're going to take that safety concern out of consideration and allow people to get chemo without endangering their cardiac health. Let's see. Here's just some slides to talk about cardiomyopathy. You can see this is sunitinib. It's a pretty common chemo agent, and it causes cardiac damage. And then you add SPP4040 to sunitinib, and you end up with a healthy heart function at the end of a chemotherapy regimen. This was done in animals. I think it was guinea pigs with a 120-day chemo regimen. And by the end of 120 days, I think half the animals were dead that didn't have our protective adjuvant. The rest had severely impaired heart function. And then the ones that got our adjuvant all were normal. They were healthy in terms of their heart function. Here's another one, LV rate of contraction. And then again, here, I told you it doesn't affect the efficacy of the target drug, and this is one of the studies we did in cancer models to show that in fact we don't have any untoward effect on the efficacy of the cancer drug itself when you add our adjuvant into the mix. So what's our strategy? What are we going to do with this? There's a few things we can do. One is we can license it to folks who have cardiac safety problems, and they are either have drugs that are on the market but are have cardiac problems, or they're trying to develop them. We actually just last year we signed our first license deal. It's a company that was developing a cancer drug in phase 2, and their dose-limiting toxicity was QT prolongation, and it was severely limiting what they could do with their cancer drug. So they approached us. We gave them some of our drug to test. They tested it with their drug and found that they could completely eliminate this toxicity, which they believe is going to allow them to probably dose it at almost 3 times their current dose, which for a cancer drug is very, very significant. So we can license it. We can also take drugs that are currently on the market and create heart-safe versions of those. There's many, many drugs out there. Give you a perfect example. Celexa is an antidepressant originally approved by the FDA at a 60 milligram dose. Because of concerns with cardiac safety, it's now down to a 20 milligram dose. So it's basically a third right now of what people know is to be the effective dose. We can create a heart-safe version of Celexa that is completely without any cardiac side effects. So it can be prescribed at the original 60 milligram dose. And I spend a lot of my time talking with physicians, and every physician has got a favorite drug that they can't use anymore, or they can't use the way they want to, because of cardiac safety concerns. And all of these represent market opportunities for us to create heart-safe versions of these pet drugs that are currently constricted because of cardiac safety. So that's another thing we can do. And then the last thing we're going to do is create a standalone product to be sold and used with chemotherapy, again, to protect people's hearts from the inevitable damage that is caused to people's hearts by chemo. There we're using Neupogen as our model. For many years, Neupogen was the most successful and profitable cancer drug there was. Even though it didn't treat cancer, it treated one of the dangerous side effects of cancer, but it was broadly used across many, many chemo regimens, and that's what we want to do. We want to have our drug ultimately be used by pretty much everybody who's getting chemo, because everyone that's getting chemo needs protection for their heart. So that's the kind of the development path. How did we get here? We didn't start out actually to have a platform technology in cardiology. We actually started out as a cancer company, but it turned out the drug we were most interested in was extremely pro-arrhythmic. At the doses we wanted to give it, it would basically cause everybody to have arrhythmia and heart attacks. So we began working on how to solve that problem, and we ultimately got lucky and solved it with that drug. And that's our drug called Libocurc. And then we thought, well, geez, if we solved it with this, can we use the same learning to apply it to other drugs? And we did that, and that's how we ended up with a platform. But we also have the original drug that we worked on. It's been in the clinic now through phase 1. It's been in 70 human patients, and we saw no cardiotoxicity whatsoever. And this was at doses of a drug that without our cardioprotectant involved, it would have probably killed half the patients. So we do have phase 1 data on our Gen 1 drug, and by the way, it also seems to have good anti-cancer activity, so we're pursuing that one as well. We've got trials coming up at Johns Hopkins in glio, one that's funded by the Australian government in mesothelioma, and then multiple myeloma, we're still working that one out, and then soft tissue sarcoma at the University of Nebraska. I'm a patent attorney by training. That's where I came up from. I was general counsel of several biotech companies before I was CEO of this one. So patents are the one thing that I have spent sort of lavishly on, and we have a terrific patent portfolio. We basically own this entire space because A, nobody really believed that it was possible to come up with a universal solution for these cardiotoxicities, and 2, the compounds that we're using are, if you asked anybody who's an expert in the field, they would say that they were inert and couldn't possibly do what they're doing. And so that's when you get the very best patents, is when you are in a new area and you're going against the conventional wisdom. So we ended up with an extremely broad patent portfolio that kind of gives us the entire space. Progress to date with SPP 4040, we've got, this is an old slide that says 35 is actually more than 40 drugs now. There's no toxicity, and we're going to start our clinical trials towards the end of this year. We're just wrapping up our last IND-enabling preclinical work right now. And then the Libocurc, we've finished phase 1 trials in 70 humans, and we actually saw some responses in folks in phase 1, kind of hospice patients that had failed 6 and 7 previous treatments. So that's good too. And we're starting our phase 2 trials in that program this year as well. And there we are. We're just located down the road in Sandy, kind of at the mouth of Little Cottonwood Canyon. And there we have it. So that's my presentation. I spoke fast on purpose because I figured people who were paying attention might have some questions. So I thought I'd leave a little bit of time at the end to answer any questions y'all might have.
How much are you trying to raise?
We need about $6 million to get through our phase 1 and get started on phase 2. So about anywhere from 6 to 10 is what we're looking at right now. So, is that it? All right. Thank you very much.